A friend of mine working at the ministry, she asked me, do you want my minister to open your event? I said to her, that would be amazing, but I don't want to use your minister to create hype for my event. I want to add value to your ministry. So what we did was we created the Investor Summit. Within the Investor Summit, we had the minister there, we had investors, and among other people, our partners, our sponsors, the founder of SeedStars was there. Within his last speech, he thanked myself and UX for organizing such a high-class event, and he said, Fred, maybe your next mission is to bring the Global Summit to Mozambique. I allowed him to breathe. I met him after the chat, after his speech, and I had a chat with him. And I said to him, Michael, did you know that the Web Summit went from Ireland to Portugal because in Ireland they were paid 600,000 euros and they were making 100 million euros out of direct and indirect revenues. And Portugal offered to pay 1.1 million. And he said, yeah, I heard of that. And I said, did you know that you're not making 1 cent in this event because whatever money we've had from sponsors, I've already spent it to create such a high-class event? And he said, well, I kind of figured that out. I said, so what if we commit to a 5-year plan where the event actually stays in Mozambique, and I will commit to get the partners that will pay you an annual fee to get this, to have the event remaining here. And so, look, it's not a done deal, it's far from that, but you need to have a dream. And I think this event is super important for a country that last year was hurt for all the wrong reasons, whether it was a hidden public debt, or it was a political and military tension, or it was an economic crisis to the point that there was a currency depreciation. Nobody was talking about the potential that the country has. Nobody was talking about the startup stories where my own startup had awards from GSMA, African Entrepreneurship Award, and was funded by the DFID. And Easy Shop, another very, very successful startup in the country, had the Bayer Foundation Award and also won the Slush Impact. The startup ecosystem was inexistent in this country. We were a pioneer startup back in 2012. So 2 years later, I really feel that it was the start of something in this country when you talk about innovation. And there was the first ICT challenge hosted by the Ministry of Science and Technology, the Finnish Embassy. There was also the first MozTech. It's actually the largest tech event in the country, more commercial and institutional event. And there was also a thing called Startup Challenge, which was a competition that is run by a Portuguese company that has a branch in the Bay Area, in San Francisco. It's very usual for them to require tech solutions, right? And to import these solutions rather than finding local talent. So you need to bridge this gap. And it worked out well. We did it for 3 years. And SeedStars eventually understood that perhaps they could take a leap of faith and do the regional event in Mozambique. And I would actually say that the responsible person for that was Claudia Macadristo, because she was with us for 2 events. She saw our vision and our ambition and the way we took care of their brand, and she really liked this environment as well. I mean, we bordered with 7 countries. We have 2,700 kilometers of coast, very welcoming and hospitable people. So she said, why not having it in Mozambique rather than doing it, for instance, in Kenya, that already had Mark Zuckerberg and Jack Ma visiting, or South Africa, which is one of the most developed countries within the region, right? And for us, it was to honor that commitment, but also to position our country as a relevant innovation hub within the region.
Of course, with tech, we've been able to get over some of the social barriers, but I'm curious to know your view on the Lusophone, the Anglophone and the Francophone market, because investors are still entirely perceptive of this 3-language sort of conversation.
Look, that's definitely a barrier. In fact, if I said that the country is a bit off the radar for its innovation, that is definitely one of the key reasons, I guess. So within the Lusophone countries, we're not communicating enough, and I hope that this event, fosters this collaboration. But even worse than that, the Anglophone countries are really not looking at the Lusophone countries because of the language barrier, and also because the market is small. Let's be honest. If you're talking about tech, our market has, according to the World Bank, a 7% internet penetration. The mobile penetration is far better, it's around 60%, but the market is still considerably small. So what people need to look at Mozambique for is its innovation, not just the market. Because what we're doing can be replicated across the continent and even in some other emerging markets. And that's where we need to take it. When we work with technologies such as USSD or SMS, when we look at payment solutions that are mobile payment solutions, or even using a debit card rather than just looking at online payment solutions, it becomes very interesting if you're looking at the emerging markets, because that's also the situation of a few of them, right? And that's where I see the potential is, whether it's for us or for Angola, and even the smaller markets like Cape Verde. You would not consider Cape Verde for the market itself. Maybe it's not profitable enough for you to invest. But if there's innovation coming from Cape Verde that is highly scalable, then you must just think that it will require a lot less for you to invest in the Cape Verdean entrepreneur, just like the Mozambican, and you can really have a huge difference in this entrepreneur's journey.
Right. I'm curious about your company as you come to a close of the conversation. Of course, you mentioned since inception of the sister startup competition and more, you've been able to engage and share best practices, right? So what's been the largest digital hurdle that you've had to overcome or you've managed to overcome with your company, UX?
We look at a technical certificate, a 3-month technical certificate, and we find it more credible than 3 generations of skill perfection. A carpenter is at times the son of a carpenter or the grandson of a carpenter, and he's been learning that skill since a young age. So how do you bridge this gap, we thought, with this very low internet penetration, etc., etc. So we understood that all of these people, they had the trade and a phone number on these wood boards, right? So they have a phone, so they can be connected. So we used USSD for them to create a profile using a very basic phone with no internet connectivity. This information is made available on smartphones, whether iOS or Android, and even on websites. Then the customers, they use their smartphones to search, let's say, for a carpenter in Maputo. They see a list of carpenters, they see ratings from other users and comments, and they are able to hire these services, right? So it's bringing credibility to the informal market, it's increasing the job opportunities, it's improving the income generation. And I would say the largest hurdle was understanding that after a couple of years, when you thought you had a successful platform, you find out that the market is actually not that big, especially if you're considering social impact. And then you need to understand how you're actually going to bridge this gap and have something that is more scalable and more impactful.